as a Catholic, I hear all the time that my beliefs aren't biblical, that the church even tried to change the Bible to fit their own agenda. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. The doctrines that surround the modern Protestant Catholic divide are not a uniquely Roman Catholic invention. They were the universal baseline consensus of Christians in the ancient world. When Protestant reformers broke away from Rome in the 16th century, they were not just rejecting papal authority. They were rejecting a sacramental and theological worldview that was already shared by Christians across Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. So, if you've been watching this channel, you've heard me talk a lot about apostolic succession. And when I say that, what I mean is when Jesus ascended into heaven, he sent out his apostles to teach the gospel to the world, right? And they stopped in certain places, like St. Mark stopped in Egypt, St. Peter stopped in Antioch, then he went to Rome. When they stopped in these places, they made churches. And those churches have kept and maintained teachings and traditions from these apostles up until today. And so that's what I mean by apostolic succession. Churches that were built and founded by apostles and have kept their teachings and traditions for 2,000 years up until today. Right? So there's a few churches that have or can claim apostolic succession. And between those churches, there's a lot of disagreements, but the core beliefs are the same. The real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, Marian devotion, intercession of saints, infant baptism, those sort of core beliefs are all agreed upon with these churches, right? So if we go back to our history lessons, Rome was split into two empires, right? The Eastern and the Western. In the Western, we obviously have the Roman Catholics doing the Roman Rite. As we move to the East now, we have the Eastern Catholic churches, right? They are in full communion with the Catholic Church in Rome. And there's 5 different rites that they go by. The Alexandrian Rite, which St. Mark introduced, the Armenian Rite by St. Bartholomew, the Byzantine Rite by St. Peter and St. Andrew, the East Syriac Rite by St. Thomas, and the West Syriac Rite by St. Peter. Right? So all those churches, so like in the Alexandrian Rite, there's the Coptic Catholic Church. The Armenian Rite has the Armenian Catholic Church. The Byzantine Rite has the Bulgarian Greek Catholic Church. Right? All those churches can trace their origins back to an apostle. Right? And they, again, are all in full communion with Rome. Moving along, though, now we have the Eastern Orthodox Church. So, as a lot of you may know, not in full communion with Rome, they split, right? And they followed the Byzantine Rite. And like I said, they all agree on like the main same points. The reason for the split with the Eastern Orthodox churches was over papal authority and the filioque, which I'll do a video about the filioque another time. But basically, it's an argument about whether the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father alone or from the Father and the Son. Right? So going a little bit further now, we have the Oriental Orthodox churches, also not in communion with Rome. And a lot of their names sound the same as the Eastern Orthodox, so don't get confused. But we have like the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria, the Armenian Apostolic Church, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, right? And they follow the Alexandrian Rite, the West Syriac Rite, and the Armenian Rite. And then lastly, we have the Assyrian Church, also not in communion, and they follow the East Syriac Rite. So a common narrative in Protestant circles is that the Catholic Church corrupted the pure, simple faith of the early Christians. However, church history complicates this theory. The Oriental Church split from Rome in 451 AD, the Assyrian Church in 431 AD. These groups had virtually no theological contact with Rome for over 1500 years. Yet, when you walk into a Coptic church in Egypt, an Assyrian church in Iraq, or a Greek Orthodox church in Athens, you will find the same core beliefs. And so that's the main point that I was trying to make here today, is that the oldest churches that trace their history back to the apostles, the ones that learned straight from Jesus and then delivered it to the churches, they have the same core beliefs. And it wasn't until 1517, I believe, when Martin Luther came around in the Reformation, that these things even came into question. And I think as Christians, we have to go back to how the oldest Christians prayed. And the oldest Christians prayed and worshiped the way the Catholic Church does today. And so that's why I picked Catholicism and switched from being a Protestant, is because I wanted to worship Jesus the way the first Christians did. And I think the first Christians worshiped Jesus as Roman Catholics. So I hope that is some food for thought for you guys to think about. I hope maybe you can go take some of this information to a Protestant friend and see what they have to say about it. I would love to hear Protestants respond to this and tell me why they think that, you know, the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist is not a thing. Tell me why for 1500 years all the churches were believing in this, and then Martin Luther came around and said it's not real, and you guys believe that. I would love to hear a response to this video. So I hope you guys have a good day, and God bless.